Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also urging a yes on this one. And the debate so far has been robust and I think enlightening in one particular area, talking about whether things should shift from one population to another, a population that maybe is less well off than another. I think that I want to focus in on one specific aspect of that conversation, because in reality, what this amendment talks about, you're probably familiar with the idea of tax shifts. We talk about it all the time when we get to the tax conversation. This amendment talks about an entitlement shift. And here's how it talks about it. And you may be aware, Mr. Speaker, and we've talked a lot about disability benefits here on the floor. And just because in this state you may have a disability and you may work with DSHS or another 4- or 3-letter agency, doesn't mean that you are entitled to receive any support unless you live in an RHC, unless you live in a state-operated living alternative, unless in very few circumstances you have an entitlement that guarantees you to receive a benefit. For the most part, you are not entitled to receive any benefits in this state. Now, the underlying bill perpetuates an expansion of an entitlement for illegal, undocumented immigrants to receive health care, while it continues, it perpetuates the constriction of an entitlement for disabled adults and children. I bring that up, Mr. Speaker, because the no-pay services caseload is something that we discuss a lot in policy committee and in the populations of folks that I do a lot of work with. What that means is we have an expansion of need of services while we're having that constriction of the ability to provide those services. The underlying budget bill says that there's an underspend, and we're going to sweep that underspend away, and this amendment fixes that by saying we're going to rebase the Medicaid reimbursement. We're going to take that, quote, sweep from the underspend, and we're going to put it back into the pockets of the people that need it, the people who can't work or they need supported employment. And supported employment is one of those programs where if this amendment is taken, is not going to be devastated. However, if the budget passes without this amendment, we're going to see continued devastation of supported employment. Now, supported employment is the idea that somebody is 16, 17, 18, 20, 21 years old, and they require a job coach. They may require a one-on-one, somebody to help them do work. Let me give you an example. In December, I worked in my district and met with a constituent job coach. And we met at Mod Pizza up in Bonnie Lake, and we met this young woman, wonderful young woman. She was blind, she's deaf. She was working at Mod Pizza just a couple hours a week through significant supported employment. Now, I couldn't talk with her. She couldn't hear me. I couldn't sign to her. She couldn't see me. Her entire view of the world, her universe, is through taps and connections with her father, who I met, a wonderful man, and the job coach that she built a relationship with. What I know, Mr. Speaker, is that we didn't speak the same language. We couldn't listen to the same music. She couldn't hear music. We couldn't talk about entertainment. But I could see the joy on her face when she helped put cookies inside tins and close the tins up. I could see the humor that she saw in her view of the world, her universe that I just cannot comprehend. I could see how job coaching and supported employment meant a lot to her. When we're talking about shifting these ideas of underspend away, it makes sense on paper. If money is not expended, why is it being appropriated into that area? But I'll tell you, a good example of why is respite, and a conversation that we had last year in a House bill that didn't move forward, House bill, I think it was 1200. This is where parents were seeking to be able to utilize some unspent respite funds to create funding direct to those parents that couldn't work and were taking care of their children. Why were they doing that? Because half of the money that we appropriate for respite doesn't get spent. Why isn't it spent? Because there is nobody in the market to provide it. That's part of it. The other part is the process to go about getting respite hours and to maintain it. Mr. Speaker, if the solution for the bureaucracy that creates barriers for our disabled people is to just get rid of the money, well, congratulations, you've gotten rid of the bureaucracy, there's no problem anymore. But I hate to see the idea that that money is then reappropriated somewhere else, and we see these lower rates. We see lowered rates for ABA reimbursement. We see a continued constriction of support for disabled children and adults. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to say it again. The underlying bill expands an entitlement for illegal undocumented immigrants in the form of health care benefits, while it shrinks entitlement for disabled people. I want to fix that. We cannot fix that by reducing reimbursement rates. We cannot fix that by looking away from the Medicaid conversation. We need to lean into it. We need to rebase our Medicaid rates, and we need to address the bigger policy. This is a good amendment for all of Washington. Vote yes.